Universal Studios Hollywood is already a phenomenal park. With key rides like Revenge of the Mummy, the Studio Tram Tour, and Jurassic World, this park is a must for parkgoers around the world. And I recently visited this park for the first time in a few years to experience some of their other attractions that I may have missed out on last time. You can check out that vlog in the top right corner. But after I left the park, it was time to get ready for their premiere Halloween event, Halloween Horror Nights. Now, here in Orlando, I go to Horror Nights a lot. So I figured why not go to Hollywood's and see what theirs is all about.
Hey guys, Hunter from Theme Park Hunting here, and we are here at Halloween Horror Nights here in Hollywood. It's a completely different environment than what I'm used to. I'm very excited to see what this event's all about. Let's just get straight into it, get the clown. Let's go.
Immediately walking in, I was greeted with the Clown Saws Scare Zone, and this was my first taste of HHN Hollywood. I was already very impressed. The scare actors got a lot closer to you than I expected, using their props to their advantage, getting as close to your face as they possibly can, and it definitely felt different. I was very surprised to see how good these scare actors were, because I feel like in Orlando, we don't take full advantage of our scare zones.
Walking through the scare zones already, this is a completely different experience.
It's much more intimate.
Like, everything is much closer to you. I like it. This is really cool. I'm already extremely impressed with this event already.
So to kick it off, I saw it had a short wait, so I immediately went to the Studio Tram Tour for the Terror Tram. This is one of the only attractions that Hollywood has that the Orlando park will never have, and wow, this was cool.
So I'm going to start off with something that you'll never ever be seen at Universal Orlando. They turned the Studio Tour into the Terror Tram, and this year you get to walk through Jordan Peele's creations of Us and his latest movie, Nope. I just watched Nope a couple weeks ago. It's pretty good, and we saw the set earlier today, so I'm very excited to see that. And obviously there was a Us house in Orlando a couple years back. That was one of my favorite houses, and they got the movie spot on, so I'm very excited to see that again. Very excited to see what the Terror Tram is like. I made sure to avoid POVs at all costs because I want to walk into this completely blind.
You boarded your tram and were greeted with a video. The video was telling you about this clown, Harry, who used to have a TV show years back and is now killing people and using their corpses as puppets in his new show. He has been haunting Universal Hollywood for years, and sightings of him were becoming more and more frequent as of lately.
Here we go, we're on the Terror Tram. I'm very excited to see this. I know we have to get off at some point, walk through some stuff. This is going to be sick. Let's go.
When you arrive at the drop-off point, it's time for you to become the latest character in a show. The second you get off the tram, there are many scare actors with chainsaws, then they come out, and it was super cool.
Oh, it's cool. We're walking where the tram went right here earlier today. Now we're walking through this section. This is awesome. Everything, like I said, it's so much more up close and personal. I love it. Oh, this is going to be good.
We then were walking through the sets of Universal Hollywood like a small scare zone in the Bates Motel. You then had a photo op with Norman Bates in front of the Psycho House, another scare zone right next to the Psycho House, and after another small walk, you entered the final scare zone that featured the clown through the War of the Worlds set. If walking through the sets wasn't cool enough, seeing them all transformed into a scare zone is one of the smartest things I've seen Universal do. And finally, you then entered the grand finale of the Terror Tram, where you enter the world of Jordan Peele, as you walk through the actual set of Nope, his latest movie. Walking through the set, characters from another one of his movies, Us, were scaring you throughout the set. This was probably my favorite part of the whole tour. Finally, you then boarded your tram and traveled back to the park. The Terror Tram was probably my favorite thing there. It was so unique and it had a good story, good sets obviously, and some good scares. One of the original houses that intrigued me that I really wanted to see was the Universal Horror Hotel. And it had a short wait, so I immediately got in line after the Terror Tram. The story was about this hotel that opened in Vegas years ago by a psychopath. He would kill people in his hotel but blame it on natural circumstances. When he was finally found guilty of all of his crimes, he was gassed to death and was saying that he will be back. Now the hotel is haunted and anyone who is brave enough to enter is more than welcome to. The story for this house had a lot of potential, but I thought the execution was a little poor. The sets were pretty good, but the scares just seemed lackluster. I really wanted to like this house, but unfortunately, it just wasn't anything special. At this time, all the lines for the houses on the upper lot were extremely long, so I then walked down to the lower lot to check out some of the houses here. When I arrived, everything had a long wait except for Universal Monsters Legends Collide, a house that is also featured at Orlando's event. I got in line and didn't wait that long luckily, but this house was a disappointment. I thought Orlando's was pretty cool, but this one just wasn't that good. There wasn't a scare that stood out in any way, it really just felt like a house that they just slapped an IP on and called it a day. So overall, it was quite disappointing. I then tried to do Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but that line was so long that I decided to head back up to the upper lot. When I got up there, everything was super long, so I just sucked it up and got in line for the Curse of La Llorona. Now, this house was good. The storyline was great, the sets were visually impressive, it had a couple of animatronics which were pretty good, and the size of some of the sets were really, really well done. And I actually thought this was the best house when it came to scares. So this ended up being my favorite house of the night. After this, all the lines were super long for most of the other houses, and since I can do most of them here in Orlando, I decided to leave the event around 11 p.m. Overall, I felt that Universal Hollywood does a good job with their Halloween event, but when it comes to Orlando, it's just not even a competition. Orlando is miles better, and here's why. First off, the houses just aren't as good. Orlando does have a lot more space to utilize these houses, and Orlando probably gets more tourists for HHN than Hollywood. Sets weren't as good, scares weren't as good, it didn't feel as special as Horror Nights Orlando, and they do groups instead of conga lines over at Hollywood. Conga lines for houses is essentially a non-stop flow of people who enter a house, so there's always going to be someone in front of you and behind you. They never cut off the group at any time. They do this to help capacity so the lines don't get too long. A lot of people can complain because the scares aren't as good, but personally, I'd much rather wait less than an hour than get a little more scared in a house and wait 3 hours. HHN Hollywood does groups, so 10 people enter the house at a time, and then there's a 15-second gap before the next group goes into the house. This may work at events like Howl-O-Scream over at Busch Gardens, but when you're talking about Universal and their capacity, the lines can get really long really quick. I waited 45 minutes for the Universal Horror Hotel, 45 minutes for Monsters, and an hour for La Llorona. So 3 houses down in 2.5 hours. That is not good. And those were the 3 shortest lines that were advertised throughout the night. If you came to Horror Nights Hollywood right at opening and only did houses and nothing else there, not stopping for food or drinks, then you can get all 8 houses done plus the Terror Tram in one night. And the Terror Tram, luckily, I only waited 10 minutes for. Other than that, it's going to be really hard to get them all done. And all the wait times match the advertised wait, and these were the 3 shortest I saw all night. Scarecrow the Reaping got up to 100 minutes, and the Weekend After Hours Nightmare got up to 120, whereas our Weekend After Hours Nightmare usually averages around 60 to 80 minutes. I feel like if HHN Hollywood did the conga line system for their houses, it would be a lot better. Overall, HHN Hollywood is a really good and fun event. But if you're going, I would recommend getting Express ahead of time because they will sell out before the event even starts. So that was my experience at HHN Hollywood. If you don't live in California or Florida and you want to go to a Halloween Horror Nights event, I highly recommend you go check out Orlando's. It's run better, there's more to do, and the houses are a lot better. So, there we have it. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to subscribe, and while you're at it, drop a like on the video. As always, it's Hunter from Theme Park Hunting. I'll see you guys later, and follow the thrill.